Today I'm talking with Scott Hicks from Lumina Gold and Luminex Resources about the advancement of the Cangrejos and Condor projects in Ecuador. Morning, Scott. How are you?
Good. Yourself, Paul?
Very well, thank you. I imagine there's, despite the fact that there's travel restrictions, whatever, there's a lot to be keeping busy with. How are things progressing?
Yeah. So, I mean, at Lumina Gold, we were really fortunate, and we finished our drill season obviously last September. So, things have still been progressing in the background with the PEA update on the new resource. So we're still expecting to have that out in Q2 here, and that'll be on that new 17 million ounce resource that we put out in November. And then, over at Luminex, we're fortunate that you're right, even with the international travel restrictions, we still obviously have a fairly large team in country, and we were able to we paused drilling for 1 month, but we've been able to recommence drilling now at the camp there, and we just put out a maiden resource that was just under 1 million ounces of new discovery for our Condor project. So yeah, definitely still keeping busy even with the restrictions and a bit of obviously less travel for everybody.
Okay, yesterday I was on a webinar with the Vice Minister of Mines of Ecuador, and he was saying that the government's looking at the possibility of resuming mining activity in the coming weeks. It's been working on developing a protocol to allow that to happen or to facilitate that. How do you think? What are you hearing about the ability or when you'll be able to restart work?
Yeah, so mining's been designated an essential sector, and for us, we are able to still work, and we put in some fairly strict protocols for our camps. So before any shift changes, everybody who goes into camp has to be tested. Otherwise, they're not allowed to go in. So we have that initial kind of vigorous screening protocol, and then once you're at camp, we're obviously following all the social distancing protocols as well. And right now, what we're doing is we're only drilling one shift a day, and all the core is getting sprayed down, disinfected. We're taking pretty much every precaution you can on that front. So that's allowing us to keep drilling. And then at Cangrejos in Lumina, we have a very small team at camp right now. It's only about 9 people, but the same protocols are in place there.
Okay, obviously this has been an interruption to the plans that the company's developed at the start of the year. What impact will this have, do you think, on the goals for the year in general? Are you going to make changes there?
Yeah, so in Lumina Gold, it really hasn't had any impact actually. In Luminex, I would say it's probably delayed, about a month's worth of drilling while we had the shutdown. Maybe in the end, it'll be kind of closer to a month and a half even with the restart. Obviously, we're not going with 2 rigs, we're going with 1 rig. So, a bit of a slowdown in drill results, but, we're still able to get the maiden camp zone resource out. Still been very happy with what we've seen from that front. So things are progressing, and we're not letting it hamper us too much.
Okay, thank you. Where do you want to be? Where do the companies want to be at the end of the year?
Yeah, sure. So in Lumina, Ross was out there as our largest shareholder and was obviously fairly public about the company's goal of trying to find a larger company to take on the project here. We're focused on the near term on the updated study, which we think will show a lot of improvements across the project. We've done a lot of work between the 2018 PEA and this update across a ton of areas, as well as doubling the resource. So that's kind of the near-term focus for Lumina. In Luminex, we've got 3 pretty interesting areas for exploration this year. We expect that BHP will still be drilling Tarky this year, which was kind of the best copper target in our portfolio. Anglo will be drilling Pegasus, and that we announced that they had developed 8 porphyry targets there on what they're calling Pegasus North and what we call Pegasus A. And then obviously we're drilling Condor ourselves, and we've been really happy with what we've seen so far. But we'll be exploring a couple new targets in between existing deposits, trying to connect it, and really driving that northern epithermal area towards a standalone project.
Another thing that the Vice Minister was talking about yesterday was the desire, the aim to reopen up the concessions database for applications later this year. Is either company going to be looking to stake new concessions?
Yeah, so probably nothing in Lumina Gold, but in Luminex, we certainly have some concessions in mind that are complementary to what we already have, and we're focused on. So yeah, we've been waiting for a while for the system to open back up, but we're pretty excited when it does to bid on some new properties that we think make sense. And then at the same time, with our 100% owned properties that aren't core, looking to partner those off or kind of let them go at the end of this period. Because as you recall, the last time they opened the system up was 2016, and that's when we added most of the properties we have in Luminex.
Thank you. You mentioned a moment ago that Ross Beatty has made no secret of the fact that he sees Lumina as being in the sort of final stages of the overall plan, which is a sale onto another company. To what extent is the current shutdown situation impacting that? I imagine it's impossible to do site visits at the moment, for example.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit it right on the head there. I think the inability to do site visits right now will definitely cause a delay in that plan. I mean, obviously, all these companies, major producers, have also been, very, very busy implementing operational changes, depending on where they operate, and managing their own portfolio right now. So, I think they're a bit distracted on that front, as well as obviously the inability to get to site in Ecuador. So there's no doubt that will cause delays. But I think teams are now at a place where they've wrapped their arms around all the changes to their existing operations and are thinking about how to be opportunistic in this climate. And I know lots of technical teams are still doing desktop reviews, active in data rooms, and that's not just a Lumina comment. That's I think across the sector. We're still seeing some M&A even with a shutdown, and that's it's pretty impressive that people are able to still get things done. So teams are still working on this stuff, and business doesn't stop.
Okay, and I guess the sort of question following on from that is, what more can you do to try and optimize the project or polish it up to make it that much more attractive in order to solicit a bid?
Sure. So, I mean, the three kind of larger improvements that we expect here are one, obviously, an increase in the mine life given the doubling of the resource. Two, we're going to introduce a CIL plant into the flow sheet, and really what that's going to do is allow us to get higher recoveries on the partially oxidized material at the deposit, and also allow us to process a saprolite material that previously we'd wasted. So there used to be about 300,000 ounces of gold sitting right at the surface that we were paying to move it, but we weren't getting any benefit. So with the CIL plant, we'll be able to process that now. And then also we're looking at moving, which we announced, from a SAG and ball mill to an HPGR, and that'll cut down the power costs on comminution. I mean, the nice thing about the deposit is, you've got good rocks, so you can do steep pit walls, but it's also a bit harder. So moving to that HPGR really allows you to save on some processing costs. So, we think when all that's wrapped in, that'll help on the PEA side of things. And, we'll probably go somewhere from, call it a 16-year mine life on the old study to somewhere in the neighborhood of 25-ish years with a new mine plan. And that's really something that I think will catch the eye of major companies, that much longer life project.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like there's a lot going on, and I appreciate the update, Scott. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Stay safe.